I'm Stacey. I am a personal trainer at ETC. So, yeah, deep. I've had lots of experience, unfortunately, with poor mental health, but the main big one that I've tackled is after having my eldest son. We had a pretty traumatic labour, and the 3 years following that, I suffered in silence. I 100% had postnatal depression, but I had so much shame and guilt connected with that, so I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anyone to know. I was very high functioning. I'd force myself to take him out and do all the things because I didn't want it to impact my child, when inside I was just dying and not telling anybody. I became quite isolated and internal. It escalated to many different areas of mental health. So I became very claustrophobic and agoraphobic. I hated going out. I'd make myself go out because I didn't want it to impact my child, but I'd have panic attacks knowing that I had to go out of the house, and my anxiety was through the roof. Developed into eating disorder as well. Lots of body image issues, as well as everything else really. So I became quite a shell of my previous self, and I didn't want anyone to know, but I became quite frustrated. So the relationship, the biggest impact obviously with my husband, who was incredible to be fair, but he didn't really know how deep it went. I think a lot of it was down to, or put down to, you've got a new baby, you're tired, it's hard work and it's a change, and some of it to a degree is expected. So I think he was very understanding, but never fully realising why I was so frustrated all the time and so sad all the time. And yeah, it went a much deeper level. He was super helpful and supportive, and it wasn't until 3 years later I kind of had a meltdown and it all came out, and I managed to get some help through the NHS, get some counselling, and they treated me for PTSD at that point because it had just escalated so far over 3 years. We then had a second child, which unfortunately was also really, really awful. I nearly lost my life during labour on that one. So traumatised in many different ways. Luckily, I think having had the help from the first one, I was able to recognise it when it was starting to happen again, and I was able to reach out because I knew that it had helped the first time. So I was much more confident reaching out, and having had the support, knowing that I wasn't necessarily going to get judged for how I was feeling, made me feel more happy to talk about it. But that obviously, it's just many years of different counselling, having talked and having the support of the people that are closest to you rather than trying to hide it. It's been a roller coaster, it's been a journey. So I've actually been with my husband since we were 15 at school, and I was always very active, really sports-like, and when it came to leaving school at 16, I was at this crossroads, and I was either going to be, I either wanted to be a choreographer, something in the fitness industry, or a hairdresser. And at the time, I started down the fitness path at sixth form, but I got offered an apprenticeship as well at a hairdresser's. So at 16, being able to get paid while I learnt that one was the priority. So sacked off the sports, went into hairdressing, didn't do any kind of fitness for years, and then obviously had the children and got very overweight and very unfit, and I've done it all the diets, all the fitness DVDs, everything you can think of, and nothing stuck until I joined ETC, and that's changed my life to an extreme level. Yeah.
I talked to Ali, you went to France recently.
Yes, yeah, at the weekend. Yeah.
How did that go?
It didn't go as well as I would have liked, but I just really, this was a big one for me mentally actually, because I like to do things well, and usually, because of all the past and the trauma. If I don't do well, I very easily, or have in the past, beaten myself up and felt frustrated and annoyed and like guilty that I didn't do good. So I've avoided stuff for a long time. And going to do this and failing a couple of the lifts, but being okay with it. The biggest takeaway was walking away and being like, at least I tried. I'm actually really glad that I tried for the heavier weight, even if I didn't get it. Mentally, to be able to deal with that in a healthy way was the biggest win of the weekend. Once I did eventually open up, it was definitely easier. And you recognise that people that matter, they don't care, they don't judge, they support you, and that's huge. And one thing that my husband said to me, which will always stick with me, and I say it to everybody else now, is when I was at my worst, and I fully said to him, like, I would totally understand if you didn't want to stay with me, because I'm annoying myself, like I'm hard work, I don't know how you're putting up with it. And he said, like, a relationship is never 50-50, it's 80-20, it's like 90-10, like sometimes one has to give more than the other. And he's like, right now I'm just having to do a little bit more, and that's okay. And at some point it will come back around. And it does, like that's stuck with me. I think it very much depends on the environment and the community that you're with. I think if you're with like-minded people, then it can be great and it can be open and it can bring people together, and physically it's super helpful, I think, for your mental health. But if you can do it with people that you can actually connect with and open up to, it can be amazing as well on that level. But I think it's a bit of just finding your place and your people. I think there is still some stigma perhaps in certain places, like I've experienced it myself when I've tried to go to a different environment and try to exercise, and people have their headphones in and no one's smiling, and it can be a quite intimidating place. And if you're already struggling, it's not necessarily the most welcoming environment sometimes. But it's a bit of trial and error, and sometimes you need that. You just want to put your headphones in and zone out, and that's okay. So yeah, perhaps it's just a case of finding the right place for you. I have tried everything, like I said, all the DVDs at home, but I lacked motivation on your own. Going to the gym and then feeling intimidated and not knowing what I'm doing, and trying sports. I used to love playing netball and doing that, but going back to it, being older, more unfit and unhealthy, I wasn't as good as I remembered. And rather than that being helpful, because I wasn't in a great mental health place, it almost did the opposite and made me feel perhaps a little bit worse about myself, because I wasn't as good as I would have wanted to be. For some people, going back to a sport that they've done before can be exactly what they need, but you don't know if you don't try. So I think that is my best advice, like try. If you're a bit nervous, have someone go with you. And just be open and honest and willing to try, but manage your expectations as well. If it's something you've never done before, it's okay if you're not that great. Like, everyone's got to start somewhere. And I think knowing that and taking some pressure off of yourself and giving yourself like a pat on the back for even trying is huge. Because we all are very good at focusing on like the negative and not so good at celebrating the positive. And even when people do something great, we naturally like minimize it. It's like, you've gone to the gym, oh, but I didn't do very good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what you've done, but turning up and trying needs celebrating. So yeah, I love it. I think anyone putting themselves through something that's going to be challenging and uncomfortable for raising awareness for a good cause is super important, and I will champion that 100 times over. There is still, I think, in general, a lot of stigma around any mental health, so any awareness is fab. I think it's going to be really challenging. I think it's amazing you're going to Italy, because you end up in Italy. If you want some support on the other side, I'll do that. Yeah, I think it'd be great, really good.
So I'm going to ask you a question I asked Ali. types of exercises you find particularly beneficial for reducing stress and anxiety? I'm hoping it's like powerlifting.
Lift some heavy shit. Yeah. Pick it up, slam it down. Deadlifts for me are like, if I'm stressed, I just want to come in and pick up something really heavy. Yeah, massive stress relief, which is weird. So, like I said, it never used to be a thing, but now I'm like, if I'm like frustrated, sad, or just angry, I just want to come to the gym, and that's all I want to do. Yeah.